بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد وآله وسلم. رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير بك نستعين يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا زدنا علما وارزقنا فهما. In the name of Allah, the most gracious and most merciful receipt, peace and abundant blessings and salutations upon the last and prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for us and to make it difficult. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us knowledge and grant us all understanding. Ameen, thumma ameen. Esteemed gathering, by the grace and bounty of Allah, you and I are here today. And indeed, this is a tremendous favor that Allah has bestowed upon you and I. For indeed, the beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned, he says that مَجْتَمَعَ قَوْمًا فِي بَيْتِ اللَّهِ مِنْ بُيُوتِ اللَّهِ. That there are no people, there are no gathering from amongst those who gather in one of the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, to remember Allah, أو يتدارسوا or to learn knowledge إلا نزلتهم السكينة, except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, descends tranquility upon them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala envelops them with His mercy. وَحَفَّةُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ, and the angels, they also spread their wings for them. وَيَذْكُرُهُمُ اللَّهُ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remembers them. حَوْلَهُ, all those who are around him. So from this hadith, you understood that indeed any individual, any person, any people who gather in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning what? The masjid. Anyone who gathers in the masjid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, He sends mercy upon that individual. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends His mercies upon those gatherings. The angels envelop them with their wings, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remembers them, those around him. Who are those around Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The elite angels. Those who are around Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who are elite, those who are supreme to him, those who have a great significance, a great sight in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So indeed, you and I are very fortunate for this, because there are people who could not be able to make it there for any type of reason. But do you think wherever they are at the moment, according to this hadith, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descended mercy upon them? There are people right now flocking the highways to go to Granada Stadium to watch cricket. From Quran and hadith, have you ever seen, have you ever heard, have you ever read that whosoever flock to these gatherings, tranquility descends upon them from their Lord? In any of the biblical books, whether it be the Bible, whether it be the Old Testament, whether it be the Bhagavad Gita, whether it be any of those books, if you ever find any of that where mercy descends upon those people, whether it be flocking to the cricket, whether it be flocking to any type of parties, whether it be flocking or going to any of these type of gatherings, then from the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to learn knowledge or to remember Him. If you can find it anyway and show me, we don't need any masjid anymore. We don't need this anymore. From any of the scriptures which has been sent down to mankind. So this is why we have to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, for allowing us to be here. And indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy for us, inshaAllah ta'ala, in our future endeavors. Ameen. Ameen. My dear esteemed gathering, respected viewers, Alhamdulillah, tonight marks the last session of our jurisprudence sessions, where we dealt with the virtues and the merit and the status of the mu'adhin and the Islamic jurisprudence for the one who calls the adhan and where he stands in Islam. And after we dealt with some of the conditions of prayer and some of the preconditions of prayer. And we also dealt with some of the actions that will break our prayer whilst we are in the salah. And we also dealt with when a person is performing salah in congregation, and if he comes late, what occurs, what he has to do. And if a person is performing by himself at his home, we discussed the way he should perform that prayer. And we also mentioned the way he performs that prayer, even if he has to pray by himself with his family at his home, where the wife will stand, where the children will stand. And we also discussed that concerning those who perform salah sitting, on a chair. Alright? For those who were not here, inshallah, you can review it online on our YouTube channel, inshallah. So tonight, inshallah, we'll be discussing some of the merit and the jurisprudence view concerning the imamate. So what is the imamate? It's those who lead the salah. This is what the imamate is about. Those who lead the prayer. Those individuals. So before beginning, I want to mention some of the merits of those people who lead the salah, who lead the prayer. And we must understand before we mention those merits of the hadith and Quran. This place where we are, which is the masjid, and this musalla was the musalla of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, metaphorically speaking, not actually this prayer mat. Okay, and it's something you might think, no, people will be doing it. Hey, this guy says this is not. No. Meaning that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the one who led us in the salah, who taught us how to perform our prayers the way we are performing now. As the way he mentioned in the hadith that he says, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni. Perform your salah as though you are seeing me perform my salah. Okay? And this significance of the person who's leading the salah has a tedious task. Because he is the one who's delegated to do so by the people. Okay, the same way when you delegate someone to lead you with regards to your country, with regards to your institutions, with regards to your job, everything. You want someone to do that in the right aspect, in the right way, isn't it? If you have a business and you want someone to run that business, you'll make sure that that person is fully equipped with that knowledge of the business, isn't it? So therefore, the same way, when you want someone to lead the prayer, you want them to be fully equipped in the knowledge of leading the prayer. Because prayer is a spiritual upliftment. It is something that brings you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why Allah says in the Holy Quran that إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. That indeed prayer keeps you away from lewdness and evils. Because prayer is a spiritual aspect in your life. So when you perform prayer, whether it be congregational or whether it be individually at home or even in the masjid, this is a means of gaining taqwa or consciousness. This is a means of gaining adab, etiquette. This is a means of gaining akhlaq, good character. This is what it means. So when a person performs the prayer, he's not only gaining spirituality, but he's gaining character. He's not only gaining character, but he's learning etiquette. Because what is prayer all about? You have to perform in a certain way. This is teaching you discipline. And in your life, you have to care about yourself in a disciplinary manner. When you come for a certain time, this is adab, this is etiquette. You know that this is the time for the salah. So salah is teaching you this part of etiquette to be punctual, to be on time. But you see, people don't see it in this way. They don't see it that, oh, you know, it's obligated. But salah teaches us all of these things. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ mentioned beautifully in a hadith that is recorded by Imam Daraqutni in his Sunan, whereby Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala, Allah be pleased with him, said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, اجعلوا أئمتكم, that make your leaders, meaning make your imams, those who lead the prayer, خياركم, the best amongst you. So choose your imam, those who are the best amongst you. فإنهم وفد, for indeed they are a delegate. They are a delegate. فيما بينكم وبين الله, between you and between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Messiah is here. So from this hadith, the first hadith that we are mentioning from the merit of imamate for those who lead the salah is that those who run a masjid, whether it be the directors, whether it be a community, whether it be whoever runs a masjid, when you choose someone to become an imam, you choose someone who has the knowledge of that thing. But not only the knowledge of leading the salah, but those who are the best amongst you in the community. You're not going to allow a crazy person to come and lead you in the salah, isn't it? No. You're not going to come someone who is always intoxicated by drinking alcohol and smoking weed, marijuana every day. No. Even though, according to the Ahnaf, those who smoke marijuana, alright, it is allowed for them to lead the salah. Okay? If there is no one who is capable, understand this. Okay? This is part of the jurisprudence rule as well. Okay? So there is no one available, and this person is a hafiz, memorized Quran. Okay? There is no one who is much more we can say best character, right? And there's no one available, then he can lead the salah. But obviously, if there's someone who is better in character and also knowledgeable, then he will lead the prayer. Okay? So from this hadith, the Prophet says, choose the best amongst you. Indeed, they are a delegate between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if someone is going as a delegate on behalf of you to your Lord, Prophet says, between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is our Lord. Allah is the Lord of the Christians and Jews. Allah is the Lord of the Hindus. Allah is the Lord of the Buddhists. He is the Lord of everything. So if you want someone to be between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to delegate someone who is the best. Okay? So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, another hadith, he mentioned and he says, and this hadith is recorded by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim and Imam Dawood and Imam Nasa'i. All of them have recorded this hadith. So the Prophet ﷺ said that إِنَّمَا جَعَلَ الْإِمَامِ لَا يُؤْتَى, that when you choose your imam from amongst you, and when you appoint him as the imam, when you make him as a delegate between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَلَا تَخْتَلِفُوا عَلَيْهِ, that do not go against him. Do not go against him. فَإِذَا كَبَّرَ فَكَبِّرُوا, so when he begins the salah to lead you in your prayer and he does takbir al-tahrima, kabbara meaning to do takbir. So when he does the takbir al-tahrima, the opening Allahu Akbar, فَكَبِّرُوا, you also do takbir al-tahrima with him. Okay? وَإِذَا رَكَعَ, and when he goes for the bowing position, the ruku, فَرْكَعُوا, then you go for the ruku. وَإِذَا قَالَ سَمِيَ اللَّهُ لِمَنْ حَمِدَ, and when he says سَمِيَ اللَّهُ لِمَنْ حَمِدَ, فَقُولُوا اللَّهُ رَبَّنَا وَلَكَ الْحَمْدُ, then you say رَبَّنَا وَلَكَ الْحَمْدُ. وَإِذَا سَجَدَ, and when he goes for the prostration, فَاسْجُدُوا, then you prostrate. وَإِذَا صَلَّى جَالِسًا, and when he is about to make his sitting, then you go for your sitting. فَصَلُّوا جُلُوسًا أَجْمَعُونَ, and then everyone should go for that sitting. So from this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ is mentioning to you and I, those who are performing their prayer behind those who they appoint as the imam, those who delegate as the imam. So when your imam begins Allahu Akbar takbir tahrima, then you make takbir tahrima. You don't go after and you don't go before. Okay, you make it with him at the same point of time. Okay, so according to this hadith here. But according to the Ahnaf, if the Imam goes to Takbir Tahmid first, Allahu Akbar, then it is permitted for you to go after him as well. Okay? So there's another hadith whereby it is mentioned by Abil Ward al-Ansari. So Ward al-Ansari, may Allah be pleased with him, he said, Sallaytu ila Junbi ibn Umar. That he performed salah next to Abdullah ibn Umar. Abdullah ibn Umar, bear in mind now, Abdullah ibn Umar, he was the son of Hazrat Umar ibn al-Khattab, so meaning what? His father was a great personality inside Islam. Understand? He was the second leader of the believers. We're all believers. He is the second leader of the believers. Okay? And amongst the companions who are the elite. So, Waradul Ansar, he said, I performed salah next to him, Abdullah ibn Umar. فَجَعَلْتُ أَرْفَأَ قَبْلَ الْإِمَامِ. So I went and raised before the Imam. So Al-Ansari is mentioning that whilst he's performing salah next to Abdullah ibn Umar, Allah be pleased with him, that he went up before the Imam. Okay, before the Imam came up, he went before him. وَعَضَى قَبْلَهُ. And he also went down before the Imam. فَلَمَّا سَلَّمَ الْإِمَامِ. So when the Imam made the salam, finishing the salam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, when the Imam made that, أَخَذَ ibn Umar بِيَدِي. He says that Abdullah ibn Umar took him by the hand. Took him by the hand. فَلَوَانِي وَجُنْدُبَنِي. And he grabbed me. He snatched me. Understand? He said he was performing salah next to Abdullah ibn Umar. And he went up before the Imam and he went down before the Imam. And when the Imam made the salam, Abdul Umar took him by the hand, meaning that he grabbed him and pulled him totally, forcefully, like, you know, someone is there, you pull them and you bring them closer to you, forcefully. So then Al-Ansari, he mentioned, he says, فَقُلْتُ مَا لَكَ. What is wrong with you? Because there's something typically someone will do, even our modern era and our modern time as well, isn't it? Imagine you perform your salah next to someone, you finish your salah, and then you're about to get up. They pull you by your hand until you sit down. Yeah. You bring that home, isn't it? So the same thing happened here as well. So Al-Ansari said the same thing. He said, what is wrong with you? فَقَالَ مَنْ أَنْتَ. So then Abdullah ibn Umar asked him, who are you? فَقُلْتُ. So Ward al-Ansari said, Fulan ibn Fulan, I am the son of so and so. قال. So Abdullah ibn Umar said that, أنت من أهل البيت صدق. You are from a truthful family, meaning that you are from a well-known family who are known for their good morals and the good etiquette and the good akhlaq, the good character. He says, فَمَا يَمْنَعُكَ أَن تُصَلِّيَ. What prevented you from performing your salah? So Abdullah ibn Umar is telling Ansari, you are from a good family. So if you are from a good family, what prevented you from performing your salah? So he says, قُلْتُ. Ward al-Ansari said, أَوْ مَا رَأَيْتَنِي. Are you mad? Did you not see me perform my salah next to you? It's something that you pull you by the hand and then tell you sit down and ask you where you from. Yeah. Who's your family? Yeah. And you tell them, you know, my father is so and so, etc., etc. And then you'll be like, hey, his father is a good person, his father is a pious man, etc. And then you say to him, so what is wrong with you? Why are you never perform your salah? So he said, like, you're shocked. Are you mad? Did you not see me perform salah next to you? Because he is performing salah next to Abdullah ibn Umar. He said, did you not see me perform salah next to you? قال. Abdullah ibn Umar said, قَدْ رَأَيْتُكَ. He said, yes, I saw you. But تَرَفَعُ قَبْلَ الْإِمَامِ. You raised before the Imam. وَتَدْعُ قَبْلَهُ. And you went down before the Imam. وَإِنَّهُ لَا صَلَاةَ لِمَنْ خَالِفَ الْإِمَامِ. For indeed there is no salah for a person who goes against the Imam. So from this hadith we understood now that those individuals, when they perform their salah with the Imam, with those who delegate to lead them in the prayer, those who appoint to lead them in the prayer, then therefore you have to go after the Imam bow. When the imam raise up, then you have to raise up. Okay? But some of the ulama, and according to the majority, the jumhur al-ulama, the jumhur al-fuqaha, the majority of the jurists, they have mentioned, if a person comes up before the imam, his salah is still valid. The salah is not broken. Okay? Some of the scholars take this hadith and said that if you come before the imam, your salah is not void. Okay? But according to Imam Abu Hanifa, which we all call it Imam Abu Hanifa, that if you come up before the imam, your salah will still be valid. But you're going against the sunnah. You are going against the prophetic tradition of the Prophet ﷺ, whereby you used to come raised after the imam has risen. Okay? In another hadith narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, may Allah be pleased with him, Abu Hurairah mentioned, he says, the reason why, and this is the view of the Hanafi as well, that they have gone against the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, is because that كل عمل, that every action, ليس عليه أمرنا, that is not according to our action, according to our matters, فهو رد, then you will have it rejected. Okay? So from this hadith, this is why some of the ulama mention if the person who comes up before the imam, or goes down before the imam, then therefore this is go against and contrary to the prophetic tradition. And this is why the salah will be invalidated. Okay? But according to the Hanafis, the salah will be valid, but you're going against the sunnah. Okay? In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, and he says that, أَمَّا يَخْشَى الَّذِي يَرْفَعُ رَأْسُهُ. Prophet ﷺ, the thing that I fear for the individual, for the person, يَرْفَعُ رَأْسُهُ, the one who raises his head, قَبْلَ الْإِمَامِ أَن يُحَاوِلَ اللَّهُ رَأْسُهُ رَأْسُ حِمَامٍ. That the Prophet ﷺ said that he fears for the individual who raises his head before the imam, that indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment will turn his head into a donkey. You all ever seen a donkey before? When you all were younger and you were in school, and I see Al-Yasar, he will tell you, you call your friends, hey, you big donkey. Now imagine this hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saying what? On the day of judgment, the thing he feared the most for the individual who raises his head, meaning what he comes up before the imam, he goes down before the imam. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala change his head to a donkey. This is a degraded stature. This is a degraded state of a person on the day of judgment. And then the Prophet continues, he says, oh, suratu, or he can also change his appearance to the appearance of a donkey, to the physique of a donkey, meaning his entire self will become like a donkey. So this is why we have to go, when the imam begins, then you begin the takbir tahrim. When you bow, then you bow. When you raise up, then you raise up. This is the merit and the status of the imam. Okay, in the salah. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, he says, إِنَّمَا جَعَلَ الْإِمَامِ لَا يُقْتَمْ بِهِ. That when you appoint your imam to lead, فَلَا تَخْتَلِفُ عَلَيْهِ. That do not go against him. Do not go before him or after him. Okay? And when bowing and raising up. So in another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned to a man who came to him asking him that, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of God, can I perform my salah at home? So this man came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked the Prophet ﷺ that if I can perform my salah at home. So the Prophet ﷺ initially said, yes, you can perform your salah at home. So whilst the man was walking away, the Prophet ﷺ halted him, stopped him, and called him back and asked him, هل تسمع النداء? Do you hear the adhan where you are living, where you are from? The man replied and said, yes. So then the Prophet said, فَأَجِبْ عَلَيْهِ, answer it. So meaning what? From this, the ulama have mentioned when a person hears the adhan for the song of prayer, and he's living where he can hear the adhan when the place is calling, meaning the masjid, that indeed you have to answer. You have to go to it. go to the masjid. But some of the ulama have mentioned that there are some reasons where a person don't need to go for the congregational prayer. We hear the adhan, and we'll come to this inshallah. So these are some of the ahadith, these are some of the merits and the virtues for the one who leads the prayer. So this means that if someone is leading the prayer, and this is a statute and this is a state, because this is the one you appoint as your imam. Now imagine for that individual who is in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So inshallah, now we will deal with some of the fiqh aspects of the imamate, those who lead the prayer. So to be imam of a group prayer is better than giving the call to prayer. To be the imam, to be the leader of the prayer is better than calling the prayer. Okay? So we mentioned previously the virtues of the mu'adhin. That the mu'adhin on the day of judgment, he will have a high status because he is to call the adhan for the prayer. So now we understood some from the virtues of the hadith why a person who leads the prayer has a higher status than the one who calls the adhan for the prayer. Okay? So to offer the salah in congregation is an emphasized sunnah. Okay? So now, according to Imam Abu Hanifa, that to offer salah in congregation is sunnah mu'akkida, emphasized sunnah. So there are two different opinions in the Hanafi madhab. So the Hanafi madhab says that to emphasize sunnah mu'akkida has the same hukum, the same ruling as a wajib action, meaning it is essential. Okay, for the men, specifically for the males. Meaning that if a person has the ability to perform his salah in congregation, in jama'ah, and there is nothing obstructing him from doing so, which is from the valid Shari'i reason. Many people know when they hear something obstructing them, they think that any reason. Any valid reason from the Sharia, from the divine law, that is preventing you from doing so. Okay? And there's a hadith whereby the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, and he says that where the Prophet ﷺ said that I planned to order the collecting of firewood and then order someone to lead the prayer, then I would go from behind and burn the houses of men who did not present themselves for the prescribed prayer. And the Prophet ﷺ was diligent with respect to the congregational prayer throughout his life. So from this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that one day he had the intention that he would have put someone to lead the prayer whilst he go out in the houses and see those men in their homes who are not coming out for the prayer, he would set fire to their homes. This was to show how the severeness and the seriousness in order to come for the congregational prayers. Okay? So long from nothing is obstructing you, and we come to it but can obstruct you from the Sharia reason, then therefore you have to come to the congregational prayers. Okay? Conditions that validate the position of the imam. The first is Islam. Obvious. Remember, jurisprudence is something of common sense. Okay? Many people think that there's so much of thing to study and to understand. If you have common sense, jurisprudence is very simple to understand, Islamic jurisprudence. Okay? So the first is Islam. The second is maturity. For a person to be sane and mature, he can lead the salah. Okay? The third is a person with sanity. Prayer behind a person with no capacity to discriminate that or to differentiate between that which he needs to lead the prayer, and therefore he cannot lead the salah. Okay? But it is permissible for a person who is not yet mature to lead the sunnah prayers. Like for example, Salatul Tarawih, according to the Hanafi method. Even though some of the Hanafi scholars have mentioned it's better that someone who should mature as well should lead the Salatul Tarawih. But if it is for learning purposes, then therefore it is applicable. It is allowed. Like what we do for our Tarawih as well in the month of Ramadan. Okay? The fourth is being male. A female cannot lead male in Salah. As you know, I don't know if you have been seeing the videos going around now as well. that we see female leading the salah, and then also some of them say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, and then they will also translate and say, oh please, this is haram, this is forbidden. A female cannot lead men in salah. Okay? But if it is a mother and leading her small girl children, it is permissible for training purposes as well, and learning purposes. Okay?
Also a big sister can lead it.
So if the big sister and she has small sisters behind her for learning purposes, then she can. But other than that, women have to perform salah individually. Okay? And recitation of Quran. Okay, from memory. You cannot take up a book, you cannot take up a Quran or a transliteration Quran, whatever the case may be, and then you stand in front there and you're going to lead people, and then you look in your book and you lead them. You can't do that. Okay? So this is also forbidden. So these are the 5 conditions that validate the position of the imam. So these are the things when choosing someone to lead your salah, this is what you look for. Because this is Islam, or is it Islam? 1. Okay, the second is his maturity, how old is he? Okay, and you look at his sanity, how is he capable of dealing with things? Okay, and also being male, and recitation of Quran. And the 6th is that he be free from excuses, such as a perpetual nosebleed, meaning that how you don't have a constant nosebleed, okay, or stuttering. So one of the conditions that require for a person to lead the salah properly is that he be free from stuttering or any type of form of lip sync. Okay, meaning that he have to pronounce the letters correctly. Okay, so if someone you know is stuttering, even though he might be knowledgeable, then therefore it should not be put him to lead the salah. Okay.
Also someone with tight tongue as well.
Also a person with tight tongue as well. Okay. So it is not recommended for him to lead the salah unless some of the Quran that we should recite is fluent and good. Okay. And the conditions that validate the following of the imam. Okay. So the follower, as mentioned from the hadith, this is the reason why it comes into the jurisprudence view. So the follower is to make his intention to follow the imam at the opening of Allahu Akbar. As I mentioned from the hadith, from the merit of the imam, that when the imam فَإِذَا كَبَّرَ فَكَبِّرُ, that when the imam makes takbir tahrima, you intend to make takbir tahrima with the imam as well. Okay. If there are females who wish to join the group where the male imam must intend being their imam so that their following of him is valid. If he does not, then their following will not be correct. So if you performing salah and there are ladies behind and you appoint someone to lead the salah, then therefore the imam has to intend, I intend to lead the salah of congregation of men and women. If he only intend to perform salah with men only, and there are women behind, then the salah will be invalid. Okay? The salah for the woman. Okay? So this is why it is important for when those who you appoint the imam, you understand this. So now let's say for example, he leading the salah and there's only men. And now 2 women come and join the salah. Okay? So this is why in those scenarios he intends, oh Allah, I intend to perform this salah to lead these men and with women, and if women were to join as well. So they will get the same when they're following the imam. Okay? The heel of the imam is to be in front of the heel of the follower. Okay? So what does this mean? The imam position will be in front and the follower will be behind. Even if there's 2 males, then therefore the toe of the person who is following him will be behind the heel of the imam. The big toe of the person who is following him. There are 2 people only. So if there are 3 now, one will be appointed as the imam and the other 2 will be behind the imam. Okay? The imam must not be lesser state than the one following him. What does that mean? It means if you think you have a current disease and you're always passing wind all the time, okay? Or you don't know if you can hold up your urine all the time, you don't know if you can hold up your from passing wind, then therefore you should appoint someone who do not have that type of chronic disease or that type of ailment or that type of sickness at that moment to lead the prayer. Because you know you are ill, you know you have some type of chronic disease, you might be passing wind all the time. So therefore you will appoint someone who can lead the salah for that moment as well. Okay? It is conditional that the obligatory prayer of the imam not be different to the obligatory prayer of the follower. Okay? So if the imam intends to perform Salat al-Asr, and then someone comes and joins the prayer and he intends to perform Salat al-Dhuhr, then it will be invalid. Okay? So therefore the imam and the follower, they have to both intend to perform the same Salat. Okay? So the imam intends to perform Salat al-Asr, and the follower intends to perform Salat al-Asr as well. Okay? A row of women must not divide the imam and the male followers. Meaning what? You cannot have a row of women in front and then a row of men in the back. Okay? So the row of men must be in front first, and then the row of women will be in the back. Okay? A river large enough for a boat to pass through is not to divide one from his imam, and neither are they to be separated by a road which a cart could pass through. Meaning what? I cannot perform Salah here, and then Riyaz and the rest of them performing Salah behind this partition. And this whole space is open here. Okay? So this will be invalid. Salah will be null and void. So there have to be limited space where a boat cannot pass through. Okay? So some of the scholars mentioned the type of boat is those type of, what do you call them? Pirogue. What is it called?
Pirogue.
Pirogue. So that size of boat should not be able to pass through. Okay? It should be the distance from the imam and the followers. Okay? The imam and the follower must not be separated by a wall in which the follower does not know the changing actions of the imam. So understand this point. So like some masajid, they have this view, the reason being because during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there were no partitions, there were no walls, etc. Okay? So it would be the Prophet ﷺ leading the Salah, the companions, and if there were women, they would be in the back as well. Okay? So now there comes a time now that we have partitions, we have walls. Okay? So it is allowed because there is a hadith whereby the Prophet ﷺ performed his Salah whilst he was in his house and the companions were following him. Okay? Whilst he was in the house, the Prophet ﷺ performed Salah and the companions were following him in the Salah as well. So this is why it is allowed to put partition and walls. Okay? This is the ruling for it. But you must understand now, the reason for this is because if a person is performing a Salah with the Imam, okay, and he cannot see the Imam and he doesn't know the position of the Imam, and he thinks he will be lost, this is the reason why it's not allowed to perform Salah with the Imam if you know he cannot see the Imam and the position. Because sometimes, for example, they may have a wall, they may have a partition, but some people, they're not familiarized with the amount of Salah. They're not familiarized with the positions in the prayer. It might be a revert, a person who now accepted Islam. It might be someone who does not know much about Islam. Okay? So they don't know much Rakat and Asr. They just know that there's 5 days Salah. They just know these type of things. So he might think to himself, okay, he might perform it, and he might be looking around to see how his Imam is going. Okay, so this is the reason why it's not allowed to perform the Salah where there is a wall or partition. Okay? But now, alhamdulillah, there are means of doing so. So they will see the other person performing, etc. They will go along with the Imam like this. Okay? So if there is no confusion with respect to hearing or seeing the Imam, then the following is valid according to the most criteria. So long as the person, even though he is not seeing the Imam, because there are some masajid that is a big and they perform downstairs, some may be performing upstairs, etc. And they know when the Imam is going for the ruku, the second rakat, the third rakat, the fourth rakat, etc. That so long they understand this and there will be no type of disruption in the prayer, then it will be valid, it will be solved. The Imam is not to be riding upon an animal while the follower is walking on foot. So remember back in the day now, before there were cars, etc., the time for Salah comes. It's allowed for a person to perform Salah on their mount. Likewise, even if a person is driving for a long time, a long period, he can perform Salah in his vehicle as well, perform Salah in his car. Okay? Okay? So likewise, if a person was riding and there were other riders with them, then therefore all of them to perform the salah upon their horse. But if there are people who are walking and there is someone who is riding, he cannot lead the salah whilst he is upon his horse, whilst those who are on foot. Okay? The follower must not be on one boat while the imam is on another boat that is not attached to it. Okay, so if you are on a boat and your imam is on another, what do you call it? Pirogue. So say for example, me and Brother Nazim and Danny is on a pirogue. Two of you on a pirogue, and I have next pirogue by myself. And the time for us to come and we swam. Right? So therefore we turn our boat to the direction of the Qibla, the direction of the place we perform our salah. Alright? So the salah will be invalid. Okay? Unless I jump on the next pirogue and there are only three of us. Right? So at that moment, then the salah will be valid. Okay? So now, say for example, there's a small boat and a big boat, but that small boat is still connected to the big boat. And if I'm on that small boat, then therefore the salah will be valid because the small boat is still connected to the big one. Understand that part?
We on Makan or place itself, so it is connectivity. So we one inches, one certain in that sense.
So in a sense, for example, they have to be in one place.
One place.
So in one vessel, like, okay, even though that small boat is connected to it. The reason why is if there's two boats, there are two different vessels. Right? So some of the exemptions from the congregational prayer according to the Sharia. Okay, as mentioned from the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, a man came to him and asked him to perform salah at home. The Prophet ﷺ gave him and said that you can perform salah, not a problem. Then the Prophet ﷺ came, called him back and asked him, that how did you hear the adhan? He said yes, so ajib alayh. So answer, meaning that don't go for the congregational prayer where you are hearing the adhan. Okay, so from this, we understand that there are some exceptions where a person don't need to come to perform salah in congregation. Okay? So these are some of the exceptions according to the Sharia, the divine law. The congregational prayer is excused, meaning the Jama'ah is excused if one of the 18 situations occurs, according to the Hanafi madhab. Okay? The first is heavy rain, hard enough to wet one's clothes. So if rain is falling heavy, then therefore if you think you were to have to walk or to jump into your car or whatever it may be, if that rain is falling so heavy that it will soak your clothes, then therefore you are excused from coming to the congregational prayer where you hear the adhan. Okay? In very cold conditions, meaning such a strong cold in which one fears for his safety. Okay, so if you think now that weather is so cold and it might get you more sick or something like that, then therefore you are exempted from the congregational prayer. Okay? Fear from an oppressor. Okay? If one fears harm upon himself or that he may be robbed of his possession from a thief, whether it be a time of war or not, he is excused. So if, for example, you fear something might happen to you, come into the masjid, somebody might rob you, somebody might kill you, etc., then therefore you will be exempted, excused from congregational prayer. Okay? Darkness that is overwhelming, meaning so dark you cannot see nothing. But now, alhamdulillah, we don't have that. This is for back in the day when they were flambeaux and everything, but now we have street lights. Okay, so unless you get a blackout and everything, it's clearly and you can see nothing. Okay? Being blind. So I don't think none of us here are blind, unless we are blind to certain situations. Okay? Right? But if we are blind, or if you know anyone who is blind, they are excused from coming to the congregational prayer. Why is this? Can anyone tell me why? Why a blind person is excused from congregational prayer?
You can take long prayer.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Because he imposes harm upon himself. If he has to walk or drive, etc., obviously a blind man can't drive, so he has to walk. Right? So you don't know, and nowadays in our pavement, everything is a hole. So you know, he might be walking, he can fall into it. Right? This is why he's excused from the congregational prayer. Okay? If one suffers paralysis in some of his limbs, Okay? So if you suffer some type of problem with your limbs, it wouldn't necessarily be paralysis. If some type of problem, you get a broken hand, a broken foot, etc. Your wife beat you and you can't move, then you will be excused from congregational prayer. Okay? If one has been dismembered, losing his hand and leg, as mentioned just now as well. Okay? But some of the ulama, and I want to point out here as well, according to some of the scholars on the Hanafi madhab, some of them have mentioned and said that if one is only missing his hand, then he's not excused. So for example, meaning what? If your hand has been cut off or been removed, etc., then therefore you still have the rest of the body is working, and therefore you can still come to the masjid. Okay, this is not a means of preventing you from coming to the congregational prayer. Okay?
Imam, is that hand or arm? Is that hand or arm?
Arm. Right? So hand is nothing. Alright? So if your arm is, or that you can say amputated from the body, you're going to support the type of pain, pulsating wire, etc. Some of the Hanafi madhab mention that if this is even amputated and removed from your body, or even if it is cut off by some type of accident, this doesn't prevent you from coming to the congregational prayer. Even though some, as I mentioned, this is the means for them to be excused from the congregational prayer. So this is the two opinions in the Hanafi madhab. Okay? Poor health, such as flu or disease. If someone is very sick, for example, during COVID time, and because of COVID time, our masjid had to be shut down. Okay? And this is one of the reasons why congregational prayer in our masjid was excused. Okay? Because a person could have contracted the disease or etc. like this. But nowadays, alhamdulillah, Allah has risen this virus, and most people might still be going around it, and we still have to protect ourselves from it. But at the same point of time, it doesn't mean congregational prayer is not excused for us at the moment. Okay, but if someone contracted, then therefore he will have to stay home, safeguard himself and his family, and then he will be excused from the congregational prayer in Jama'ah. If one is crippled, meaning he can't walk or anything, alright? So alhamdulillah, even today as well, there are people, and because of modern science, they have made it easy for crippled people to also to move about. So now this is not even an excuse no more as well. Okay, so some of the scholars have mentioned this, if they have the means, meaning the finance, to buy these machines, even though they are crippled meaning people who have no legs. Okay, they have to use a wheelchair, etc. And they become tedious. But now, alhamdulillah, due to modern science and if a person can afford it, then he is not excusable from coming to the congregational prayer. Now, the question may arise now, what if that place where he usually used to go to for the prayer is not accessible for the wheelchair? Then therefore, he will be excused from the congregational prayer. This is why many masajid nowadays are making places that where it is easier for and accessible for those who are crippled and handicapped, etc., to come to the masjid. Okay? And inshallah, we have to try to form a way to make this place accessible. And most of this masjid is old people, so soon everybody will be become something. Alright?
We're still upstairs.
So in muddy conditions, okay, one is exempted from this. Is one, the reason for this is if a person is walking. If a person has a vehicle, and nowadays where we are, there's not much muddy places. Okay, so this will be exempted from us as well. Unless a person, this is for a masjid, living in place of deserted lands. Okay? If a person suffers from a chronic illness, okay, he will be exempted and excused from coming to the congregational prayer. Old age, and this meaning old age and meaning you reach 40 and you be like 8, and you rack up on 50. Old age meaning you are so feeble that you cannot even walk within your own premises in your home. Okay, that state. Okay, or old age meaning that now you become so feeble that you start to forget everything as well. You start to get Alzheimer's and all of these things. Then therefore you will be exempted from coming to the congregational prayer. Okay. Gaining knowledge of jurisprudence, fiqh, like what we are learning now. So for example, if you are not in the masjid and you're in a classroom setting, in a university, etc., and you're gaining jurisprudence knowledge, no any other knowledge. Okay, whether it be science, mathematics, nothing except jurisprudence. This is what we are doing now. If you are elsewhere, you are not in the masjid, and you hear the adhan being called, then therefore you will be excused from coming to the congregational prayer. Okay, if you are learning this knowledge. Okay. In the presence of food which one desires, and I mentioned this in the beginning class as well. So if a person is hungry, and say for example he is at home, and he is so hungry that at that point he hears the adhan being called. And remember, when you hear the adhan, you have to answer it according to the hadith, and this is why this is the Sharia reason for you to be excused from coming to the congregational prayer. So now your wife now put out that food, you now cook that food, and you're so hungry, and you hear the adhan for Maghrib, then at that moment you'll be excused from coming to the masjid for jama'ah because of the intensity of your hunger. Okay? And because it is in front of you, and you feel that if you were to come to the masjid, your belly is going to be grumbling, and when you stand to perform salah, you're going to be thinking about the food. That's why.
What about tiredness?
Tiredness, not unless the tiredness is so much so that you will feel like if you will come, then you will faint away or you will be asleep in the salah.
When people drive as such.
Right?
Okay.
Or preparing to travel and fear of missing the vessel or the convoy or the flight, whatever it may be. So if, for example, now your flight is at 5 o'clock and Asr is say 4:45 here, right? So you think now, hey, I might not get congregational prayer if I perform here and I will miss my flight. So in that scenario, then therefore you don't have to perform congregational prayer in Jama'ah, you can go straight to the airport. And this is why even though some people perform their salah on the way or in the airport when they arrive. Because with some international flights, they request you to arrive 2 hours before, 4 hours before, etc. That is according to the scenario. Okay, so this is why a person has to have sanity. You have to have the common sense to obviously know that, you know what, hey, if I do online boarding and I check in my bags at so and so time, if he really wants to perform with the congregation, he will know the timing, etc. to set himself to do so. Okay? Attending or caring for a sick person is a valid excuse as it would cause the ill patient harm and hardship in the absence of a carer. So if a person, you are taking care of your mother who is ill, you are taking care of your father who is sick, etc., you are taking care of your son whoever is at home and they are very sick, and you are the caretaker at that moment, this is a means for you to be excused from the congregational prayer. Okay? In the presence of a strong blowing wind at night, but not during the day. Okay? So if you are coming for Salat al-Maghrib or Salat al-Isha in the night and there is a strong wind, then you are excused from coming to Salah in congregation in Jama'ah. But if it is during the day, then you are no longer excused. Okay? Why is this? Because during the night, you will sharp objects or something can blow, and the reason for this, you may not see it at that moment, but during the daytime, you will be wary and you can be more vigilant. Okay? And those most entitled to be the imam and the etiquette of the lands. This is something that we must know as well. So if the person, and there is a ruler, the sultan, he will be the most entitled to lead the prayer. But if he is not there and he gives someone, then the one who is most learned, he will lead the prayer. Thereafter, the one who is most versed in the Quran. So those who will have the most allocated, recited in Quran, then he will be deemed to be the most entitled to lead the salah. So I want you to look at this. In the Sharia view, in the Islamic perspective, in jurisprudence, in Islamic law, those most entitled to lead the salah is the sultan first, meaning the king, okay, the ruler of the land. But the ruler of the land, we don't have this no more. Okay, so that will be the Arab, the scholar, okay, who is most knowledgeable in the laws of fiqh, jurisprudence. He becomes most entitled to the one who is a hafiz who can recite Quran better. Why? And you know what's the reason? Because he knows the laws of the prayers. He knows the laws of the jurisprudence pertaining to the prayers. This is why he becomes most entitled to lead the prayer than the one who can recite nicely, even though he might be a hafiz. Okay? But if he is not available, then the person who can recite Quran nicely or the hafiz that should lead the prayer. Okay? Then the most pious. Okay? So if the one who is not Hafiz, etc., they can't recite Quran and stuff, and there is no one there, then you have to choose those who are more pious amongst you. So say for example, I am not available, and a person who is not allocated to recite properly is not also available. Then you have to choose those who are more pious amongst you to lead the salah. Okay? And if the one who is not most pious amongst you, then the eldest, the oldest person amongst you, okay, then he will lead the salah. And if he is not available, the one with the best moral qualities, meaning the best akhlaq. So then if the one who is not pious, the most eldest person amongst you is not there as well, then the one who has the best akhlaq, the best moral character. And if he is not there as well, then the one with the most handsome face. Alright? So so after all of this, then you choose the one who has the most handsome face, meaning the one who is handsome, the one who is beautiful. So you have to choose and see who is more beautiful amongst Danny, you got me well. Alright? So therefore, if the most handsome person is not there as well, if all of them are not there as well, then the one with the noblest lineage. Okay, so then you choose the one who has the noblest lineage, meaning he comes from a good household, and that household comes from a good household, etc. like that. Okay? And if he's not available, then the person with the most beautiful voice. Only after then you'll choose someone with the most beautiful voice. And many people nowadays, they tend to misunderstand the one who recites properly and the one who recites with a beautiful voice. People tend to think the one who recites with a beautiful voice, he is reciting properly. No. The one who recites with a beautiful voice can also recite incorrectly with the tajweed rules. And there are people who recite properly with the tajweed rules pertaining to the way the Quran should be recited, but he doesn't have a beautiful voice. This is why it comes after the one who knows the laws of the Salah. Okay, the one who knows the tajweed. But then after all of them, then the one with the beautiful voice. Okay? And today in our communities we say, hey, he has a nice voice, let him make Salah. It doesn't work like that. Alright? So many people misunderstand this as well. So after the one with the beautiful voice, then the one with the cleanest clothes. So you can look at the one who dressed the best, who has the cleanest clothes. After the person who has the beautiful voice is not there as well. Okay? But not if all are equal, they are to draw lots or choose the person the people want. So if all of them are available now, the most handsome is there, the most beautiful voice is there, the scholar is there, the elderly is there, the one who is no Quran is there, all of them are available. And you know, there are sometimes you find people like this in gatherings. So then you will choose the people from amongst all of them, you will choose the most one who is suitable to lead the prayer. Okay? And this is why sometimes you will find that when we have gatherings and the scholars come, and if there's a senior scholar, we will allow him to lead the prayer out of the adab, out of the etiquette, because he is senior scholar and also the more knowledgeable. Okay? And one thing, inshallah, we'll end here. The imamate, that is dislike. So it is dislike to choose someone to lead you in salah if he is ignorant. Okay? But some of the Hanafi madhab mention that those who are ignorant meaning amongst the slaves. Okay, but now, alhamdulillah, slavery is abolished. So therefore, this will be applicable. Okay? And then, you cannot choose someone who is blind to lead the salah. Okay? So if someone is blind and he cannot see, you cannot choose him to lead the salah. Okay? Some of them mention the reason this is dislike because no one can direct him to the direction of the prayer during salah. Okay? You cannot choose someone to lead the salah who is a Bedouin. A Bedouin meaning a person who resides in the desert. Okay? And the child from fornication, meaning a bastard child. Okay? So if you know that child was a bastard, then therefore it is dislike for him to lead the salah, even though it is permitted. Because sometimes you will find that even though that child is a bastard child, meaning a child born out of wedlock, you don't blame him. Okay, so you must understand, you don't blame him for him being born out of wedlock, but you will deem the parents to be wrongful, but you don't judge the parents. Okay, you don't judge their parents, but you will deem them to be wrongful. Okay, so in those conditions, perhaps that child might grow up to be a knowledgeable person. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides whomsoever He wishes. So the scholars have mentioned an immoral person is a person that who does actions openly. Alright? Meaning that you will see this person, he might be knowledgeable, but you might see him drinking alcohol. You might see him in fat. You might see him dancing in discotheques and clubs, etc. You might see him outside there cursing people upside down. Okay? You might see him being disrespectful to people. Okay? So once you see that, you cannot, even though he might have the knowledge of salah, etc., might have said good, once you see that, then therefore he cannot do the salah. But now, scholars have mentioned, if that person is knowledgeable and is the imam and he does something secretly and you don't know of it, then therefore he can still do the salah. Okay?
Just like as you was mentioned in our earlier class, that the public will do this.
Correct. So the public may not know his affairs, but remember that his affairs always knows. But even though as a person who is knowledgeable and elite in society, obviously he can act like that even secretly. And this is why scholars will say your secret life should be even more better than the life that is people see you with. Alright? The imamate of an innovator, meaning a person who is a bid'ati, okay, is disapproved, namely the reason why the one who performs what the Prophet ﷺ did not practice or preach. Okay? So this is why it is disliked to put someone who did something what the Prophet ﷺ never done. Okay? He brought about something what the Prophet ﷺ never did, and therefore it becomes disliked to perform salah behind such an individual. Okay? And the way of the lines and the rules. So when a person comes to the congregational prayer and he appoints his imam from those who is the most knowledgeable, etc., the imam, then therefore turns around and he will have to make sure that the rows is straight. Okay? And the rows begin behind the imam. And this is why from it, the one who calls the adhan, this is why he also should be knowledgeable pertaining to the laws of salah as mentioned previously as well. So he will stand directly behind the imam. Okay? So nowadays, sometimes we find individuals, the imam will be here, and the person who calls the adhan will be here, and the next person will be here. And he's not directly behind the imam. No. He has to stand directly behind the imam. Okay? The one who's called the adhan. And then we'll start from the right. And if the right is being filled and if the left, then the person, obviously as I mentioned, deals with common sense. Okay? And it feels like common sense lacking these days. So they will fill the whole thing. But then they'll start like this. Okay? So then if you see this filling, then someone will come to the left. Okay? And then they'll fill back to the right, and then they'll come back to the left. This is the way of forming the rows. And then those children who are immature, they will stand behind the men. Okay? But if the child is immature and there's space in the front lines, then the father can stand at the end and then he can put the child at the end of him. Okay? If he desires. Okay? But if the rows are filled with men, then the immature children will stand behind. Okay? And then the girls, the women. And then the small girls behind the women who are immature as well. And then there is something who are known as khunfa, what you call heterosexual, meaning that they're born both vagina and both penis. You all know about these people?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are people who are born in both of this as well. So therefore they will stand in between the men and the women. Okay? So the men will be here, then the children, and then those individuals who born both make with private parts. Okay? But then the woman and then the girls, like this. This is the manner of forming the rules. Okay? So inshallah we'll end here. Any questions?
Yeah, one question. As a traveler, like me for example, when I travel, I will cut my salah in half for except the Fajr and the Maghrib. Is that allowed, right?
Yeah, correct. So one of the things as well I forgot to mention, if a person is traveling, as I mentioned just now, if he has the time to perform the congregational prayer, he can perform. But if he knows that he doesn't, then therefore he is deemed excused from performing the congregational prayer. And when he intends to travel, at that moment when he passes his place, okay, and according to, I think it is, I forgot the radius of distance, and he stays in that place.
5 miles.
I think it's 5 miles, yes. And he passes that place for 5 miles, and he's about to stay in a different place for more than 3 days. He intends to stay in a place for more than 3 days, then therefore he becomes a traveler. So at that moment, when he becomes a traveler, he's allowed to shorten his prayers. Meaning what? When the Fajr will remain as 2, the Duha will be shortened to 2. Okay? And the Maghrib will remain as the 3, and the Isha will be shortened to the 2. Okay? So this is when he intends to travel, and he stays at that place for more than 3 days. Okay? And less than 10 days, according to the Hanafi. If he stays more than 10 days, he is not deemed as a traveler. Okay? So now he can shorten his prayers, but if he comes to a masjid and he stays in a place and the imam, the local imam, is performing Dhuhr or Isha, then therefore he will follow the imam. He will complete his 4 rakat as well, or if he performs Isha, he complete his 4 rakat of Isha as well. You understand that? So long he is performing salah behind the imam, the local imam. Okay? So you complete the salah. There is no need to shorten. But if he performs by himself, then therefore he will shorten the salah. Okay? So now the next scenario is that if he is with him and another brother, then therefore if he is performing salah behind the other brother who he is traveling with, then both of them can shorten their prayers. Understand? That's that. Okay? So now let's say this person is knowledgeable. He's a scholar. And he's traveling to a certain country for more than 3 days. And someone permits him to lead the salah. So now he leads the salah, now he has to shorten his prayers.
Yeah.
Alright? So now he is able to shorten his prayers because he's leading the salah, because he's a traveler. So he will shorten the Dhuhr from 4 to 2. But those who are resident, who are residing around the area and from the masjid and they are not travelers, then therefore they will stand up and continue the remaining 2 rakat. You understand?
Yeah, yeah.
So for example, I am a traveler, I go to a certain masjid, and someone said, Maulana, lead the prayer. I tell them I'm a traveler, I have to shorten my salah. They say, that's alright, lead the prayer. And people just do that. So you go, I will perform my salah, the Dhuhr prayer, which is 4. I will finish my second rakat. I will sit in the second rakat, the jalsa akhirah, the last sitting. I will make my salam, and then those who are following me, who never travel with me, if there's no one ever travel with me, then therefore they will get up and continue their 2 rakats. So if it is Dhuhr, they have to just recite Surah Fatiha in the 3rd, Surah Fatiha alone in the 4th. And they will end. Okay, you understand that point?
Yeah. Because the masjid I went to, they asked me to lead the salah, and I told them, I say, no, because we're traveling. Right?
Sometimes they allow, sometimes not, because many times the reason why a traveler don't lead the salah if someone asks them is because many people are not aware of the ruling and they get confused. Because if you come to lead a Dhuhr or Isha salah, you just never tell no one the ruling and you just finish. Assalamu alaikum. They'll be like, you perform 2 rakats?
Yeah.
And they might do Luqman meaning that to prompt them that they made a mistake. They get
Allah Akbar. Allah Akbar.
So they might say it over and over, but they know the ruling. This is why it's good to know the ruling as a traveler as well. And this is the key point as well. A traveler will become a person that certain amount of mileage and he intends to stay in a place more than 3 days. So sometimes people might leave from here and they might go Meru and thinking they are a traveler.
No.
And they stay there for a couple of hours and go shorter in the salah. No. Only if you leave here and you go to Meru and you stay there in a beach house or something for 3 days, then you become a traveler. Okay?
No, remember the first day, right? Okay, there's no 3 days. Let's start with first day, short term prayer.
First day as well is shorter in your prayer. Correct. If you stay for 3 days.
How about one is Sunnah in the afternoon?
Full. So now after I think full as well. Yeah, I think so. But some of the habits, really 4 out of 4. And even some of the Hanafis mention and say that even if a person is a traveler and he thinks he has the time to perform all salah full, he can perform full.
Yeah.
Not a problem as well. Alright? Any other question? إن شاء الله سيدنا والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر